Okay, so now we've made it to the first section in chapter 12, objects and why they matter. If you're new to this channel and you would like to follow along, the curriculum is in the description. It is free. You don't have to register, and you can also take the exercises in studios as well. So without further ado, let's get into the curriculum. Objects and why they matter. So far, we have learned a lot about arrays, which are data structures that can hold many values. Objects are also data structures that can hold many values. Unlike arrays, each value in an object has a name or key for reference purposes. The pairing between a key and its value is called a key value pair. Why do we want you to understand the key and understand why we separate the key from the key value pair? Is because you are going to have to search through the object to find the key or to find the value by using the key. Now, we've already kind of introduced it to you a little bit, but we're going to go a little bit further. So the reason why we use key value pairs and why sometimes people find objects to be a little bit complicated is because of the key value pairs. But you've already been introduced to what we call JSON. In your package JSON folder, JSON means JavaScript Object Notation, and it uses key value pairs. And so the thing about objects you can't iterate over them like an array. You have to use if you're going to loop over them, you need a for in loop to go to loop over an array, or to iterate over object is using a for in loop, because you have to be able to find the value through the key. Also too, just planting a seed. When you get to React, we start learning about React. We're going to use the map to map over objects, but you can't map over the object. You can only map over arrays. So therefore, the objects have to be in arrays, and in an array to be exact. And I'll explain down the road. But I just want to plant those seeds now, understanding that you can't iterate over an object. You need a for in to be able to iterate over an object. You can't use a regular for loop or for of. You got to use for in. And also too, when we get to React, in order for you to use the map method, you can only use it on arrays. So objects need to be in an array, and I'll show you later on what I mean. But I just want to plant that seed. So objects store as many key value pairs as needed. We use key value pairs when we have data. When you're using SQL, you set up key value pairs so you're able to parse through the data. So we are going to use objects a lot. And each value needs a key. Without a key, the value cannot be accessed or modified by the programmer. And again, I'm planting a seed here. When we get to React and we try to map over objects, we need to be able to we have to put them in an array. And you need a key in order for the map to work properly in a React. I'll explain, but I just wanted to plant that seed. Now here's an illustration. We have an object, key 1, value 1, key 2, value 2, key 3, value 3. This is what you want to understand, how they connect. We're going to show you the syntax in a moment. Initializing objects. When defining an object, we call the initialization an object literal. Remember this term. When we say object literal, we want you to initialize the object. Objects require 3 things for the definition: a name, a set of keys, and their corresponding values. Object literals use curly braces. to enclose the key value pairs. Here's the syntax. Once we have these three things, we write an object literal like so. So when we ask you to write an object literal, this is the syntax to write one. You have the name of the object is a variable. Remember, variables store information. It's a container. And then you have this curly brace that stores the objects. Each one of the value has a key. They have to have a key. If the value doesn't have a key, it's not going to work. If we have a lot of key value pairs in an object, we can also put each one on a separate line, like so. This is more readable, and you'll see this a lot. Warning: when putting the key value pairs on separate lines, it is important to pay attention to spaces and tabs. Incorrect spacing or tab usage can result in a bug. So again, this is how you, when you put it on different lines, you're going to have it formatted is what we call it. You want to make sure it's formatted, and you can set this up with an extension in VS Code called Prettier, and we'll explain later. When defining an object, keep in mind that the keys can only be valid JavaScript strings. The values can be any of the data types that we have previously discussed. Let's say that we want to create a small program for a zoo. We could create an object for storing the different data points about the animals in a zoo. We start with our first tortoise. His name is Pete. He is an 85-year-old, 919-pound Galapagos tortoise who prefers a diet of veggies. Our object literal for all of this important data about Pete will be like this. This is how we will write it. Let tortoise1, that's the name, which is a variable, and it's storing an object. How do I know it's an object? Because it starts with the curly brace. And notice the syntax for the key value pairs. We have the key, which is the species, separated by a colon, and we're going to use a string because we have quotes. We can put numbers in here. We can put arrays, as you can see. Now, methods and properties. A property of an object is a key value pair of an object. The property's name is the key, and the property's value is the data assigned to that key. A method performing an action on the object because it is a property that stores a function. In the case of Pete, our zoo-friendly Galapagos tortoise, the object tortoise1 has several properties for his species: name, weight, age, and diet. If we wanted to add a method to our object, we might add a function that returns a helpful statement for the general public. And here's that object. Notice how we're using an anonymous function stored in a key right here, and the value is this function. This is the syntax. In the example above on line 8, we see a keyword which is new to us. Programmers use this keyword when they call an object property from within the object itself. We could use the object's name instead of this, but this is shorter and easier to read. For example, the method sign could have a return statement of tortoise dot name. So here it is, tortoise. Remember, the dot is a modifier, access modifier, and name is a property, We don't see any parentheses. That's how we know it's a property. So now we're going to get a better understanding of what property is. Here's the name right here. In order for me to get access to whatever is inside this object, I need to use that key, and that key acts as a property. Now we're concatenating is in the string is a in strings plus tortoise dot species. Here's the species. So it's getting that information. That's the property, which is the key. However, that return statement is bulky, and we would get more difficult to read with more references to the tortoise1 object. This is why we're giving you this example. This is why we're used to this keyword, so we don't have to write out this whole word tortoise. We just put this in front of species, this in front of name. So now let's check your understanding. Now that's the end of this particular section. Now I'm just planting seeds. We're going to build upon it as we go further. So that's the end of this video. See you in the next. Remember, the more you do, the more you improve.